Hi, I'm Jesse Glenn,
I'm David Petersen,
and this is the Plotmasters Project,
a video podcast of two artists looking back,
and revisiting their earliest characters and stories.
this time.
Hero Squad.
All right, so Hero Squad is a title of Jesse's. And this actually is something that came up before I even knew Jesse. So by the time that he and I started sitting down and drawing together, these characters existed, and Jesse had already moved on from them.
Yeah, these were old. This whole thing. Granted, there's really not a whole lot to the story of these characters, but they are grounded in my youth. It's very much like, I mean, these are the stuffed animals that I had as a kid, and a lot of the art is like Manila paper kind of stuff. Um, so it was just me not not going quite as sentimental as something like Winnie the Pooh, with adventuring with your sweet lovable stuffed animals, but it's like, what if these characters went on adventures of their own, and I could just write some, do some really cool spy adventure, kind of thing with them.
And who are they? We've got a bear and a rabbit.
Yes, so there's a bear and a rabbit. The bear is Timmy. I don't know if you can see him. He's like kind of over my head on a shelf here. I don't know if you're cut off on the screen.
He is there. He's orange.
Yeah, I still have him, and I don't still have the rabbit. I don't know what happened to the rabbit, and I forget his name. It's like, I think it was Sam or something like that. I don't know. Sam or Max or something simple it was anyway.
Can't do Sam and Max. That's taken.
Well, it wasn't Sam and Max. It was Sam or Max and Timmy. Um, yeah, so these were just two of the like my best friend stuffed animals when I was a kid that I felt needed their own adventures. They needed their own story.
They don't look like heroes.
Well, they're very scared. They're scaredy cat heroes. The name Hero Squad, which I obviously didn't finish in that picture. I didn't write squad.
I feel like in the old drawing of this, there was squad partly penciled in, and I wonder if over time that has either got erased at some point, or I feel like squad was there
Possibly.
when we were younger.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an ironic title. They're not big bold heroes. They're fraidy cat adventurers. They're like Shaggy and Scooby, without the rest of the team. Yeah.
And this looks like it was. It's obviously drawn on white copy paper.
Yep.
Which you and I used to buy by the ream and clipboards, and then just do drawings on those.
Yeah.
Anything that was good got slipped into a protector sleeve and a 3-ring binder. And it looks like this was inked with maybe an espresso pen.
I think it was just one of those old felt tip espresso pens.
Yeah. I remember we loved those. We both loved those.
They yellow so badly over time.
Yeah. Though. My sister Lisa, those were her favorite pens for writing. She liked doing creative writing, and so she'd write in journals with them. And that's where I first discovered espresso pens. Was I raided a drawer of hers to find that pen, and found out it worked really well for line work for inking. And then found out, when you and I started hanging out, we were both using espresso pens, or I think it was espresso pens.
I think that,
espresso. And then these are the color pencils that you turned me on to. The Design was the brand name.
Oh, yeah.
The Design. They were a black-bodied, black-dyed wood color pencil that had like a black sheath on the outside. All the shavings were black. And they were. It was a great set in terms of color choices and vibrancy at the time, and they had like a nice amount of wax, not too much, but some.
I really
there was
them.
Yeah. I remember, you liked them, and you were using them at school, and I came home and I made a declaration like, I've got to get a set of those. Those are the color pencils of the future. And they were expensive. They weren't cheap. And I remember my dad saying, like, for whatever amount of money they were, $40 or $70, or probably not 70, but whatever amount they were, paying $40 for a set of color pencils. You better sharpen those really carefully and make them last. And I don't know if my dad's still listening. He was here earlier in the stream.
Okay.
I still have that set of color pencils. I don't think I have some that are short, but I don't think I ever went through a whole one.
Right. Otherwise, you get prang.
Oh, ugh.
I've been able to do some decent work with prangs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It depends on what you're going for.
So talking about that book of or that like 3-ring binder to display artwork in, our next slide of Jesse's was the cover, because you can slip a sheet in the cover of your 3-ring binder, and the 3-ring binder was a portfolio of whatever you had that was current. And this was like the cover of Jesse's portfolio book for a long time. This bird character.
Mm-hmm.
And he became part of Hero Squad's larger story somehow, right?
Yeah. I started. Well, I got into like some kind of cartooning instead of like traditional Western comics for a while, and I had a book about cartooning, which I probably still have somewhere on my shelf. So I was constantly like trying out how to draw different animal characters in a cartoony style, and every now and then I'd latch on to a design or two that I really liked. This bird with this bandana was just this kind of a excitable loony, not like Looney Tunes loony, but just like really just go get them, let's go crazy and get the bad guys kind of adventurous type that I put in with the Frady Cat heroes.
So he was one of the good guys.
He was one of the good guys.
I, for some reason, always thought he was one of the bad guys.
No.
Okay.
He was a good guy.
I was wrong.
Well, he's more like maybe more like a Deadpool good guy. I don't know.
All right, and then
he was Deadpool before Deadpool existed.
Wow, look at you! Oh, Liefelding. And then here are a couple other characters.
These are villains.
These are the villains, and I remember very clearly seeing these drawings as like early Jesse Glenn drawings that were when we first started hanging out. These were the things that you already had done that I was seeing to kind of get a sense of who you were as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about these baddies.
All right, so the weird purplish guy with the pointy thing on his head is the main bad guy. He's the leader. He's, I guess, your typical grouchy, angry, takes his frustration out on all of his inferiors. Cobra Commander,
Slythe,
Megatron, Starscream. Just beat up everybody else, but don't take any of the blame yourself. Typical bad guy leader. And yeah, the bird was he's more the second in command, I guess you could say. He's the Destro. I don't know. And then the little weird bug thing, or he's got fins or something. I don't know. Whatever he is, he's the thing that gets stomped on, kicked, thrown across the room. Just whenever there needs to be that
the comedic relief at that character's expense.
Yep, absolutely.
And
I wasn't doing anything original.
Well, I mean, I don't know that part has to be original.
Well,
the bird is holding a sign there that links us to our next character in the Hero Squad pantheon.
Yes. The flying hamster with the crazy yellow hat, who, again, I don't... He had a name at one point, I think. I don't remember what it is. So this was some time... This character was added sometime after the originals. These characters, I've had them for a while. I've drawn them for a while. Like Dave said, like they originated from before he and I were really friends. I think I started drawing this after we were friends. the hamster, maybe.
No, this was before
No.
because that's so scribbled out there. This is one of the ways I can time code this. Scribbled out there
Yeah.
is a version of a character called Rigger. That hopefully, if we get to do more Plotmasters episodes down the line, you'll learn
Yeah.
more about Rigger in an episode called Phalanx. That is a scribbled out Rigger that is the old design of Rigger. So
Okay.
by the time you and I met, you had your new design of Rigger, who was less of a cartoonist's interpretation,
Okay.
more less of a comic strip kind of version, and you were doing more Western comic
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I came in when Rigger was comic book Rigger, and scribbled out on the sheet is old comic strip style Rigger.
All right. Something like that. So anyway, still before tape. But yeah, so this was a while later, and I was again still doing some cartoony stuff, and I think this guy started out as just kind of an independent character. I was just like, yeah, I'll just have this character, and I'll have him go on his adventures. And I think just as I do, I have done this with everything I've ever created, ever, still to this day. I will have multiple stories hanging around and multiple characters and different things, and I will say, no, these three need their own independent thing of that. But then I'll put this aside. Now, this one character here, no, I need this character from that story can be, because that would be a really cool team up, and then I won't do that for a while. It just happens.
You do
So
like reshuffling the deck.
I shuffle all the time.
Yeah.
So this is a character that was on his own for a while, and is like, you know who this guy could be paired up with? Here we go. Put him in Heroes.
Yeah, there have been times where you've done that too, where the genres don't necessarily match. It's almost like it's. I mean, to take popular things, you like, you know where Darth Vader belongs in my Wild West story. That's where Darth Vader belongs. Like you've done that kind of thing where it's like, really,
I
and you're
do
like,
that, and I will change the complete tone of a whole story. Like I will change the plot, the tone of a story just to add a character from something else.
one of the later Plotmaster episodes that we have scheduled for a later season is one where I even remember going, "What is that?" And you were like, "That's one of the ones that everything got shuffled into." That's the crock pot of characters.
Yeah.
So this is unfortunately, and this is Jesse and I have both been really good about archiving our work. And hanging on to this old stuff and saving it and appreciating it for exactly what it is. But unfortunately, these 4 pieces are pretty much all there is of Hero Squad that's left from the old stuff. Like Jesse said, some of this was stuff that he scribbled on the margins of notebooks in class, or I'm sure Jesse could probably dig out some more pages like the excess heads here, where he was finalizing on certain designs or line qualities or practicing inking. But in terms of being able to show you guys more, unfortunately, this is all there is, which also put us in a really interesting position of doing new pieces.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot to go on.
Yeah. So I knew who these characters were from seeing the old art, especially the flying hamster and this piece that may or may not have said squad there at one point. And so when we started, I had to ask Jesse, fill me in again. Who are these guys? What is it? And essentially everything Jesse and I have just talked about is the information. So I think each of us probably have more to say about our new pieces than we do the old, because we both had to do some real building from scratch when it came to our interpretation and how to depict these characters if we were picking up this project today. So I'll start with mine. And I decided, one, just to change my style, not to do something that was inked in a mouse guard kind of way. Jesse drew this as a comic strip cartoon sort of thing, and I thought I'm gonna do something like that. I'm gonna be looser. I'm gonna be more animated, more Looney Tunes with it. And I'll talk about the inking techniques and stuff later. I'll start with just the general theme. The whole scared heroes thing I liked. I wanted to play that up, so I definitely made the rabbit and the bear clearly afraid in the moment, and I was drawing on the the Mickey, Donald, and Goofy animated cartoon from Disney a long time ago called The Lonesome Ghost, which I used to have on a. They used to give kids these little. It's like a ViewMaster reel, but it was a movie. You put it up to your eye, and you could turn the crank, and you could watch the movie, and you could put different cartridges in that had different movies. It was a Fisher-Price set. And I had the Lonesome Ghost, or at least an excerpt of the Lonesome Ghost on that. I remember watching that and just loving the idea, one, of Mickey and Donald and Goofy teaming up, because I hadn't seen many of the shorts at that time of those three. But the idea that these were these inept ghost hunters. It also reminds me of the moment in The Wizard of Oz where the cast of characters are tasked to go kill the Wicked Witch, and they're walking through that haunted forest, and they've got nets, and one of them has, I think the Scarecrow has a pistol, and he's Barney Fifing it. 30 years before Barney Fife, or 20 years before Barney Fife, just Barney Fifing it. One of them has one of those spray cans, which I included here. I think the lion has the spray can in The Wizard of Oz. But yeah, just not only are they timid and unqualified for this job, they've got all the wrong gear. They've got a magnet on a fishing pole. Yes, they have a rifle and a bear trap, but they've also got a tank sprayer and a butterfly net and a toilet plunger and a few sticks of dynamite, which was my nod to classic Looney Tunes style stuff. So I went with them almost like they get called. They are the hero squad that gets the call, and they are completely unqualified. Meanwhile, the true hero of the town, of the city, of whoever, is the flying hamster with the jetpack. And he's the real hero, but for some reason they're the ones that get called. Maybe it's that our flying hamster doesn't have a bat signal that can be put up. There's no good way to get a hold of the flying hamster. He just shows up when he shows up. But the hero squad is listed in the phone book. For those of you who are too young, a phone book was a book that had phone numbers listed in it before there was something called the internet. But yeah, I figure the hero squad are the people that you call because their number is listed, and there is no flying hamster signal. And so that's just what I went on, and I didn't dig too much deeper. I got the drawings from Jesse of the villains. I contemplated putting them in, but I kind of felt like it doesn't matter who these guys go up against. If you did this as a comic strip or an animated series or something like that, you could have a new villain each week. You don't necessarily need the tentacle squid guy to be your villain every time. He could be almost like maybe the old Batman 1966 show where, yes, Cesar Romero would show up as the Joker and Burgess Meredith as the Penguin fairly often, but there were times where those actors were not included. The Joker and the Penguin, or Catwoman, or the Riddler were not in the episode. It was a different episode with a different villain, some of which were made up specifically for that show. So I think you could have a villain of the week here, or a problem of the week for the hero squad to try to solve, and probably more often than not either get the job accomplished in spite of themselves, or because the hero is actually the flying hamster. To draw this, like I said, I wanted to kind of abandon my normal techniques. I did a pencil drawing first, and then I inked over it with a brush pen. And then I brought it into Photoshop, and I did a different coloring technique. I decided to do something a little bit more cel-shaded, and I pulled out, I don't normally color with a tablet, but I pulled out a tablet so that I could get some actual line work to my coloring, as opposed to the kind of stipple brush thing that I use when I color mouse guard. I thought it was really interesting how, without even trying, some of the brush work combined with the color work, especially in the hamster, starts to look almost like I was trying to mimic Scotty Young or Jake Parker. And I'll be honest. Yeah, I'll be honest. That was totally a happy coincidence. I'm usually pretty honest if I've swiped or copied from someone. That just kind of came about, and it was interesting to see how, if I draw cartoony and ink with a brush, you get kind of this weird Parker Young homage going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my piece. Yeah, there probably could be more to it. I wish that the silhouette, that the kind of color shift that's going across the words Hero Squad there, are supposed to be a cast shadow of our two main characters. being projected up, but it really, there's not enough solid space, and I don't think the contrast is high enough that reads. It's just kind of texture on the letters, and I guess that's a place where I wish I had done a little bit better of a job. But that's
Now
my
that you say it, I can see it.
yeah, yeah. It's not really there, but yeah, if it's pointed out, you can kind of see.
Yeah,
But
I think you captured it well, like the
thank you.
whole persona of the piece, because I really get the feeling that when it really comes down to the time to fight something, that rabbit is absolutely going to drop that shotgun and grab the fishing pole and just start swinging. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that,
It's probably going to be a comedy of errors where the magnet picks up the gun in a way that the
mhm,
gun is firing while it's dangling from the fishing pole,
yeah,
and then he almost steps in the bear trap, but the plunger gets him on the face, and
yeah,
it's a whole, like, you can do like the opening scene of Roger Rabbit, that beautiful piece of animation that's just nothing but almost like a Rube Goldberg of falling and getting hit gags that
yeah.
just domino into one another. You can see that whole thing from this group of these incompetent but somehow still lovably brave heroes.
Yeah. I mean, they still go do their job, right?
They're still listed in the phone book in my world.
Yeah.
By the way, a phone book. No, well, we've done that gag.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to Jesse's version and see what the creator of Hero Squad envisions for their update.
All right. So I don't know exactly what I was really trying to approach with my art style. Um, I didn't want to get too far from the cartoony thing, but I don't really draw that way anymore. But I didn't want. I was okay. Let's put it this way: I don't really have a set style or way of drawing. Every time I draw something, it changes. Um, so I was just really kind of an experiment as to just start from the basics. I mean, what were the characters? I had this stuffed bear. I had this stuffed rabbit. They went on adventures. Well, let's just take that and go from there instead of going from the drawings I had. I mean, I kept the ideas of what they looked like for the villains and whatnot, but the rabbit and the bear were real. I mean, I had them, so it's not like so I'm not basing my current drawings off the old drawings. I'm basing it off of the stuffed animals I had. Changing the anatomy, they're a little more humanistic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you said the limbs on the bear are definitely longer or something like that, and he's holding the bat. And the rabbit, I put the rabbit up in the air because rabbits jump.
That works
um,
compositionally.
yeah, so yeah, it's a spacing thing for the piece too. Um, but tried to keep those true to their original stuffed animals, basically. Um, then when I went through with the villains, those I did try to just let me just redraw the ones that I had. I was like, I don't really want to change them too much. Put a bit more detail into them. Yeah, I kept like the little squishy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone said, the Salacious Crumb
Yeah,
character. Yeah,
yeah.
um, yeah. That I really just liked that as it was. I didn't want to change that little thing. So I
Well,
kept
you
that.
you added just enough more anatomy to it
Yeah, a
that
little bit, a little
it
bit.
now actually makes sense. Before it was a ball with feet,
Yeah,
and
feet and
and
tail.
yeah, and while the design is in essence exactly the same, you added just enough more anatomy and kind of shape to them that it's like, oh, I totally understand that as a creature now. That thing's real.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the bird, I wanted to give him something more to do as opposed to hold a sign. Uh, give him like a military vest and a gun and some pockets. Gotta have pockets. Uh, Stuff on your belt. So he's the military type. He's gonna fight and do damage. He's like gonna be more serious about this than just a protest sign. Um, and then I gave the big purple guy with his tentacle arms, a scepter that may do something.
It looks like a nib for a pen, for a crow quill pen,
It kind of does. Maybe
and he's got it on his chest too. Is he and
he
and
does.
and on his antenna thing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's his motif.
Is he an artist?
Maybe
He's an angry artist.
he's an angry artist, and which
He's an angry
which
inker.
angry artist. which I guess works because then the hero hamster back there, I was just experimenting with a different kind of hat for him,
Yeah.
and I was going to have that red thing on top be more like a siren, but it looks because it's yellow and it's got that silver that
Ah.
looks like the end of a pencil, and it looks like an eraser. So maybe
I hadn't noticed that until you say it now. Yeah.
it's supposed to be a siren, but I'm thinking maybe it's an eraser and he just goes around
Oh,
erasing
I
all
didn't
the
even
bad
see.
guys' artwork.
I didn't even see it. I didn't even see it as a siren. I saw it as a he's got a guru ish look to him. Like
Oh
that's just a
yeah,
very elaborate pattern on his now very big headdress.
yeah. I didn't do any kind of transparency or lighting effect to make it look more like a siren.
Mm.
It really
Mm-hmm.
is just kind of a flat red. So
It's not
yeah,
going off right now.
yeah. It's just
Yeah,
yeah, it's
he's
just not on.
he's not on alert.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did an interesting thing with making the heroes more heroic, even though there's some doubt in Timmy's eyes.
Yeah.
He's not confident, but he's certainly not terrified
Hmm.
the way he was in the original. You've given them a little bit more of an active role, which probably, if this was going to be some kind of a series or something, would give a story longer legs.
Yeah.
The way I'm doing it, that gag can only work for so long. But if they actually become kind of active participants and just have certain triggers that make them scared,
Hmm.
that's probably a better long term story solution. And then that
Yeah.
hamster is I see him as like this hippy dippy, like, hey, it's all cool, man, and he's just flying in with his
Yeah.
whatever it is, whether it's fortune cookie style sayings, or he just got back from India where he hung out with Maharishi, and he's gonna bestow some some wisdom, some meditation wisdom on you. uh, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reading into this, but I'm seeing Timmy and the rabbit being much more competent heroes, and the hamster maybe being the one that's the fraud.
Maybe.
Like
I mean, he's got a jetpack, so
well, yeah, it's like he's got the equipment and the costume for being the hero.
okay.
But I don't know why. There's something that impresses me about him where he's not. He's not the hero. Maybe it's the
He's
size of him in the piece. Maybe it's just the body language. But
he's one of those wealthy superheroes who can afford all the gadgets. He just doesn't have the wherewithal to follow through all the time.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I also realize, because it's been a while since we've done one of these. For anyone who's new to the Plotmasters project, I also want to emphasize that Jesse and I are doing these simply as exercises, simply as a way to share something with our audience, to show the old artwork, to kind of show our origins. Like at the beginning there, we were talking about our materials and our process and the kinds of things that we used. We talked about influences, artists that we were looking at the time, or how our styles have changed. It's about looking at origin stuff, but then also just doing this interesting exercise in how can we update these. But I want to make it clear that we have zero intentions of doing anything with these further. These pieces of artwork were created just so we could do a Plotmasters episode. I know with some of the other ones, like Cat's Trio and Last of the Five Dragons specifically, those episodes tended to bring out some fans going, I want more of this. So you're developing this? This is a new thing?
Yeah, when do we get this? I can't wait. Hurry.
I mean,
Now.
Jesse and I aren't saying no. If there are any publishing companies or production companies that basically want to purchase the rights and the license and hire us on as consultants, we're not saying no to that. But
Yeah.
both of us have things that we're working on that we should be doing that isn't developing yet another thing to not get finished.
Yeah.
So these are fun deviations from our regular workload. They are not something else to keep going on. They're one-time drawings. They are fun. They get added to this library of all the past artwork. Now, in addition to the 4 drawings, of Jesse's that lasted from Hero Squad, from his youth, before I even knew him. We now get to add two. We get to add my piece and his piece to the Hero Squad folder.
And I think it's great to have, this podcast going and showing these things, especially this far back. It's like a lot of the other stuff we have is high school or later.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, there were definite influences in the comic world that we were going with. But this is something that I wasn't influenced by comics at the time for this. Cartoons, yes.
But even still, there was a cartooning style that and the original flying hamster drawing, I think, really exemplifies this. This was something. I mean, there's a little bit of Calvin you can kind of see up here in this. It's like, I think, Rigger with his glasses and without his glasses over here on the left. It's almost a little bit of Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes, but sure, for the most part, not. This felt like, and it was something that impressed upon me when I met Jesse and got to see his drawings, is he had this handle on drawing characters that was uniquely his own. It wasn't coming from somewhere else. And yeah, we were both influenced by Jim Lee and tried copying some of that stuff, but this and it's, you can see it a little bit here. If you take out the center line of either one of these characters' eyes, if you take out the dividing line between them, you get this shape of eye that became it was synonymous for me with Jesse Glenn cartooning, and it was something that I incorporated. Like, sitting next to him, Jesse's 3 years older than me, so when I was a freshman in high school, he was like a big brother that I was looking up to, and when I'm seeing, like, oh my god, he's got this eye thing down, and he knew how to do different expressions with that shape of eye, I'm using this too. I'm incorporating this eye shape in, and it became the eye shape for the original versions of the Cats from Cats Trio. It became Cap Transfo's original eye, or not original eye shape, but I ended up incorporating into my version of Cap Transfo. It became the stuff for our wars. It was original. Like, that was interesting about this stuff from you, Jess. It was not a Jim Lee clone. It was not name the comic illustrator in the paper, Bill Watterson or Gary Larson or whoever. It wasn't one of those people. It was uniquely Jesse Glenn, and then I stole it too.
Yeah, so even though I'm not going to go anywhere with this, I could, in theory. I feel like, I could do a lot more development on the characters, refine them, build a world around them, and give them adventures to go on. And I like that I can share that with the audience, in that, we were all kids once. If you held on to your ideas, great. Go back and look at them, because sometimes a lot later in life, I know I struggle, but people struggle with creativity, struggle with imagination, struggle with creating something new. I don't know. Go back and look at what you used to do as a kid. Kids have great imaginations. If you have children, encourage their imaginations, and keep some of their art. Just encourage them to take better care of it, and put it away, and save it for whenever later in life, because you can use it. It's all good stuff.
And whether it's from a kid, I think one of the real benefits I've gotten from getting to do the Hero Squad stuff, I mean, obviously it fills a little sentimental hole in my heart of just pure nostalgia, of what we think of as our good old days, but the real exercise here is in editing, and I think it almost doesn't matter if the source of inspiration, the original drawings, the original characters and concepts for a story or something that you've been working on, it doesn't matter if it's 30 years old or a year old. This could be the novel or the painting or the drawing or the comic series that you started developing and ran into roadblocks with and you put on the shelf. What Jesse and I are doing here is looking at this stuff and using it as inspiration and saying, what part of this design is worth keeping and what part needs to go away? What part have I aged beyond and I could just maybe simply just draw better or write better or conceive in a better, more realistic way or more interesting way? But also, where am I losing some of the spark? Is there anything here worth keeping? Is everything worth keeping? And then somehow creating a new piece of artwork that speaks to that And I think it's interesting if you go back and watch the other episodes of the Plotmasters project, you will see that Jesse and I, when we're taking on the same characters, and sometimes it's all Jesse's drawings that are the source inspiration. Sometimes it's both of ours. Yeah, no matter who it is, like we have done every mix of whether we're being influenced by Jesse's drawings or being influenced by my drawings or a mix, and our responses, our new responses, are different. There are similarities. There are things that bridge the gap between the two where you can tell that we are trying to tackle some of the same motifs and subject matter and almost genre, but there are inherent differences. And it's in those things it's also about the edits. These are the edits when Jesse and I are looking back at this old stuff and saying what's worth keeping, what's worth leaving out. I, for instance, left out the villains, where they became very prominent in Jesse's new designs. I think that's the interesting thing. So if you are struggling creatively or have that manuscript or have that comic idea or over.
Yeah, I find it's been useful for me, even though we haven't done this for a while. The pieces that we've done, as someone who is sort of an infrequent artist, I do freelance illustration here and there, but I'm not a regular working comic artist or anything like that. So I'm not constantly drawing. I take long breaks where I'm not drawing anything. It having these projects. So if you're like me and you're not constantly drawing and you're just like, I'll do something here and there. Doing these revamps is really good to get motivation. You don't have to think of something from scratch. And what David said about the editing thing has, in going back and doing these and editing the new art and ideas for the Plotmasters, helps me when I do my professional work, which is basically developing characters. I draw illustrations for a comic-based beer label. So everything I draw is a new character for each new beer. And it helps to have that mindset in there, and having Plotmasters has helped me, define character better. You get closer to the essential meanings of what the character is about, what the beer is about, and get rid of a bunch of superfluous things that otherwise cloud the image or the idea. So
yeah, we hope to bring you some more Plotmasters soon. So keep your eye out, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.